Dr. Asa Brown, the only clinical psychologist in the region, recently had a book reading at the CRD Public Library in downtown Williams Lake. I caught up with Dr. Brown at his office following the reading and asked him some key questions.
The book reading went well. I felt like there were a lot of good questions offered. I enjoyed the interaction. I was surprised by how many showed. That was really a good thing. I probably knew a couple faces. The responses of the group were very warm, and I felt that they were very inviting, very accepting of what I had to offer.
One thing I find interesting about trauma, though, and it always amazes me, people that have been profoundly and deeply traumatized can overcome trauma much quicker than people that have been traumatized one time. And I don't know if it's just because, they've become numb to the trauma, they've adapted to the trauma. That's where we get into personality, developments. People become disassociated or have DID, dissociative identity disorder, any of these personality disorders. But they do that to save themselves. They do that to protect themselves.
Waiting to Live is available at local bookstores, supermarkets, and throughout the world. I asked Dr. Brown, why did he write the book and what is its meaning?
The reason I wrote the book was to offer not only my patients, but the community at large, something that they can take home, that they can read, something that can help them grow as individuals, help them grow in relationships, and help them grow spiritually, physically, and psychologically. The message is about living life to its fullest, living life in a peaceful and positive way.
Dr. Brown is a motivational speaker and a life coach with two practices, one in Williams Lake and the other in Washington State. I asked Dr. Brown, what is his next project?
I am working on a couple different books at the moment. The primary book I'm working on at this time will be on racism. Now, this book I've worked on for several years. It's looking at racism on a global as well as a local perspective, looking at it as an individual to a sociological idea, as far as the community abroad. And I am hopeful that my book on racism will help send out a message that we are all human.
Prior to becoming a clinical psychologist, one must have conducted a dissertation. And Dr. Brown's research was conducted right here in Williams Lake. Dr. Brown explains.
The research is titled The Effects of Childhood Trauma on Adult Perception and Worldview. It looked at a number of different factors. Looked at psychological, emotional, verbal, physical, and sexual abuse as far as the types of trauma. Those could vary from a personal abuse in the home to a traumatic experience such as September 11th. Even viewing that, which we would call vicarious trauma, it looked at these different perspectives of trauma and how an individual would prove resilient, how an individual would would react in a positive way, also how an individual would react in a negative way, both sides of the coin. I had one scale that looked at the positive and the negative in respect to trauma, and from that we gained a great perspective on how a person proves resilient, the factors that help them to prove resilient, whether it be parenting or a therapist, a teacher, a coach in some cases, and what it was that acted as not only as a protective factor, but looked at the individual themselves. What was their temperament like? Did they have the type of temperament that would fold in the midst of crisis, or would be capable of moving forward in the midst of crisis?
I asked Dr. Brown if Williams Lake was any different than any other community.
I would say that Williams Lake is not unlike any other community. You know, we have very similar dynamics to Vancouver, to Edmonton, to any other major metropolitan city, to the smaller communities, such as Hinton, Alberta. I mean, you know, we have our troubles, we have our good, we have our bad. I would say that as far as on an individual basis, you know, people can prove resilient depending on their temperament, their family dynamics, their social dynamics. And so for an individual to prove resilient, you know, it's all the protective factors as well as the support, as well as their own temperament. And so, no, I don't believe it's any different. I do believe that it's the same as what we see elsewhere, but how do we create a cushion of support in this community? I think it begins within each individual. It begins within our social services. It begins within our churches and our homes. It's available through ProQuest, which is on the web. It is an organization that works with students' papers from a master's level on up to a doctorate. It's all research-based. It has to go through committees. It's not like I can decide, hey, I want to publish this through ProQuest. It has to go through a university setting, accredited university at that. And but it is available online. It's available also if you go through my own website. I have a link to it, which is asadonbrown.com. Otherwise, for those that are looking for educational, using it for educational purposes, whether it be a university or high school, I'm willing to share this information with them if they just contact me. And so, yeah.
Earlier this month, I received a call from a very excited Dr. Brown, telling me about an upcoming conference coming to our community. Dr. Brown gives us the details.
There's a conference that's going to be taking place on May the 7th at TRU. It's a conference that we're going to be looking at the aging, dementia, and the arts, and how the arts can effectively be a positive force in the life of those developing dementia as well as the aging. You know, we're most creative when we're born, and you know, as we age, we're less and less and less creative. Our expression of art, our expression of music becomes less and lesser as we get older, and unless it's in our profession, we tend to deny it. And so this conference is hopeful to show people that the arts can help foster and stimulate an individual at any age, as well as the relationship between the arts and how we think, how it can help us to be more focused, more positive, and actually happier as individuals. If you're interested in attending this conference, do contact me. You can also contact Dr. Chris Montoya, and the conference will be open to professionals and non-professionals. We're encouraging folks that have aging family, aging parents. Anyone that works with an aging population would be really benefited from attending this conference. We have folks that will be coming up from the University of BC, possible some folks from U of A, and other places throughout Canada. I think it will be a great conference. I think it will offer this community something that we rarely get to see, and that is a number of professionals coming together, offering their expertise on the issues of dementia, the issues of aging, and the issues of the arts, and how we can take those three ideas and collaborate together and help people that often we forget about to see hope and life again.
Dr. Brown is a remarkable human being, sharing his knowledge and life experiences. Through books, research, and private sessions, I asked Dr. Brown if he had anything to add.
In closing, I would like to offer this, and that is, you know, my work, my messages, whether it be my dissertation, this book here, Waiting to Live, my future work, is to offer individuals hope, to offer encouragement, to offer happiness. You know, not that I'm offering happiness, but I'm offering perhaps a pathway to happiness. And that each individual can take from the work I've done, whether it be this book, whether it be Waiting to Live, or whether it be future work. My overall ambition is just to help people and encourage people to live life and to live it productively.